Thursday last week, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, Trump's son-in-law and his Middle East envoy, are sitting across from Iranian negotiators in Geneva. The Iranians hand them a document, 7 pages, a plan for a civilian nuclear program. Except that plan, the Iranians refuse to let leave the room. Kushner and Witkoff examine the numbers. They realize this program would allow uranium enrichment at levels 5 times higher than what was permitted under the Obama nuclear deal. 5 times. Not 50% more. 5 times. And as if that weren't enough, a nuclear facility Iran had presented as being used for medical and agricultural purposes was actually being used, according to American officials, to stockpile additional fissile material. Iran had refused an American offer of free nuclear fuel as part of the deal. Free nuclear fuel. Iran said no. When someone refuses free fuel during a nuclear negotiation, either they are absolutely stupid or they have other plans. And the Iranians are not stupid. Trump concluded that Iran was using games, tricks, and stall tactics. And within 36 hours, Trump gave the order to attack from Palm Beach.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury.
Not from the Oval Office, not after a vote in Congress, from a country club in Florida. Think about that for a second. The operation has a name, Operation Midnight Hammer. The plan calls for a massive bombing campaign lasting at least 5 days. 5 days. As if you could schedule a revolution on a PowerPoint calendar. Now, before I explain what is really happening, because the official version is incomplete, very incomplete, we need to ask the fundamental question that nobody in the mainstream American media is really asking. Did the threat justify what we just set in motion? Trump declared that Iran was developing long-range missiles that could soon reach American territory. Except that claim is directly contradicted by a 2025 federal government assessment that concluded Iran is years away from that capability. Years, not months. Years. Experts are unequivocal. Iran is focused on short and medium-range missiles with a maximum range of 2,000 kilometers. The distance from Tehran to Washington is 10,000 kilometers. That's 8,000 kilometers short. Someone at the Pentagon knows how to count. Trump probably does too, but the narrative doesn't need geographic precision to work. 3 anonymous American officials with access to intelligence on Iran's missile programs told the New York Times that Trump had exaggerated the immediacy of the threat. CNN and Reuters reported the same thing. So the real question is, if the immediate nuclear threat was exaggerated, if negotiations were still ongoing on Friday, why the rush? Why that specific Saturday morning? One reason given by 3 senior administration officials: fear that Iran would strike first. Trump feared that the massive American military armada he had ordered to mass in the region, one of the largest American military mobilizations since the Iraq War, might itself become a target. You understand what that means. We sent an enormous war fleet near Iran. Iran said it was a target, and we concluded we had to attack before we got attacked. That is schoolyard logic at a nuclear scale. And to truly understand why we are here, you need to rewind. Not to Thursday, not even to Saturday. In 2018, Trump unilaterally abandoned the JCPOA, the nuclear deal negotiated by Obama with Iran and the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council. That agreement imposed clear limits, prohibitions, and intrusive IAEA inspection requirements on Iran's nuclear program for 10 to 15 years, with some measures being permanent. The deal was working. It wasn't perfect, no diplomatic agreement ever is, but it was working. Inspectors were on the inside. Centrifuges were being monitored. The program was contained. Trump broke all of it, and now, 8 years later, he is sending bombs to solve the problem he himself created by destroying the only framework that was preventing Iran from moving forward. The bitter irony is that Trump is today trying to solve through bombs exactly the problems the JCPOA had solved through diplomacy. And since 2018, the United States and the international community have been blind. No inspectors, no monitoring, no agreement. That is a strategic absurdity of a rare magnitude. You destroy the only tool that lets you see what your adversary is doing. You then blame them for doing things you can no longer verify. Then you bomb them while claiming you know exactly what they are doing. Now let's look at what this has actually produced. Here are the preliminary numbers. 201 dead in Iran, at least 9 in Israel, 3 American soldiers killed. And the deadliest single incident? A strike on an elementary girls' school in the city of Manab in southeastern Iran killed at least 148 people and injured 95. 148 children. In a school. On a Saturday morning. The Israeli Air Force claims to have dropped more than 1,200 munitions across 24 of Iran's 31 provinces within 24 hours. 1,200 munitions in 24 hours. On a country of 90 million people. That is the concrete reality of what Trump launched from his golf club in Florida. Now here's the point that will change everything going forward. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's supreme leader, was killed in the American and Israeli strikes on Tehran on Saturday. A sovereign head of state, killed by foreign military strikes. Take a moment to absorb that. The last time someone deliberately killed the leader of a sovereign country in a planned military strike, you search for precedents in modern history, and there are not many. And they did not end well. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian responded that Iran considers it its duty and legitimate right to take revenge against the perpetrators and commanders of this historical crime. He called the assassination of Khamenei a declaration of open war on Muslims, especially Shiites, in all corners of the world. You just created the most powerful rallying cry for radical Shia movements across the entire planet, from Lebanon to Iraq, from Yemen to Afghanistan. That is not alarmism. That is elementary geopolitics. The American strategy rests entirely on an untested proposition that the Iranian people will quickly rise up after the strikes. That is a massive gamble. If a large-scale revolt fails to materialize, the Trump administration will face a fork in the road, fold or go even further. That is precisely the scenario that turned Iraq into a decade-long disaster. And that brings me to the thing I want you to remember above everything else. Here's the truth that few American media outlets dare to say clearly. The nuclear pretext is not the real objective. The real objective is regime change. According to Al Jazeera, Trump is setting the table for a revolution in Iran, 73 years after the CIA orchestrated a coup against Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. They have done it before. This time they are doing it with weapons and bombs rather than covertly through the CIA. 1953. The CIA overthrows Mossadegh. Iran ends up with the Shah, a pro-American dictator. In 1979, the Islamic Revolution arrives precisely as a reaction to that American interference. The mullah's regime is, historically, an indirect creation of American foreign policy. And now, in 2026, we are doing it again. This time openly, with bombs and missiles instead of CIA officers in Tehran alleyways. The United States and Israel have targeted nuclear facilities, ballistic missile infrastructure, and radar installations, as well as leadership headquarters and elements of Iran's military command structure. This is not limited to degrading capabilities at the margins. It is a direct blow to the security architecture and governing apparatus of the state. We are not just hitting the nuclear program. We are hitting the entire nervous system of the Iranian state. The American-Israeli operational plan envisions this campaign not only as aimed at degrading Iran's military capabilities, but at creating the conditions that could bring down the regime. Bring down the regime. That is the key phrase. And here is what the Trump administration, like the Bush administration before it, does not appear to have calculated. Once you launch this type of operation, the spiral has its own logic. Iran cannot not respond. Its credibility in the Arab and Islamic world depends on it. Its domestic political survival depends on it. Iran has already launched strikes on 27 American bases in the region. 27 bases, not 1 or 2. 27. 3 American soldiers have already been killed. 5 others seriously wounded. Iran has launched retaliatory strikes across 8 countries in the region: Bahrain, Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. German shipping group Hapag-Lloyd has suspended all vessel transit through the Strait of Hormuz until further notice, the strait through which virtually all crude oil from the Persian Gulf flows to the rest of the world. That means your gas prices, your grocery prices, your heating bills are going up, because the president decided to go to war without consulting Congress. Because, and this needs to be named clearly, under Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, only Congress has the power to declare war. The United States has not formally declared war on Iran. Members of Congress have vowed to force a war powers resolution vote. Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, two Republicans, joined Democrats to express their outrage that Trump carried out the strikes without congressional authorization. Chuck Schumer declared, "The American people do not want another endless and costly war in the Middle East when there are so many problems at home. So many problems at home. America has bridges that are collapsing, a housing crisis, a national debt crushing future generations. And this morning, we are spending billions to bomb Tehran. Iraq cost us $2 trillion over 20 years. 4,500 American soldiers killed. No stable democracy. Just a torn-apart country that today is more aligned with Iran than with Washington. Iran is 3 times Iraq in terms of population, with a deep culture of national resistance, a sophisticated military tradition, and proxies spread across a 4,000-kilometer arc. Trump threatened Tehran with a force never seen before if Iran chose retaliation following Khamenei's death. A force never seen before. That is the verbal escalation of a man who has not yet calculated what happens if this does not work. If Iranians do not rise up, if the regime holds, if Shia militias start killing American soldiers by the dozens, at that point, he will have a choice between folding, which would destroy his presidency, or going even further, which would take us somewhere none of us want to go. And that is where the ultimate irony lies, the conclusion that few are willing to articulate. By bombing Iran to prevent it from having a nuclear weapon, we are giving every nation in the world proof that the only protection against this type of aggression is to develop a nuclear weapon before America decides whether you need one or not. North Korea is watching. North Korea has the bomb. North Korea is not being bombed. Iran did not have the bomb. Iran is being bombed. The lesson for the rest of the world is blindingly clear. And in 10 years, when 4 or 5 new countries have accelerated their clandestine nuclear programs, having drawn that lesson, history will name this moment as the tipping point, not as a non-proliferation victory, as its exact opposite.